river, it actually became a precedent for other rivers to be privatized. Now this is the history. Now what do you expect people to do? What do you expect farmers to do? Some of them will resign themselves to their fate. Others would think in terms of compensation. But there will be many who will feel, well, if this is what our fate is, and we are reduced, our land is going to go away, we might as well stand up and fight. Now what are we going to tell them? Please don't fight. Please take recourse to the judiciary. Please go to elect a better person to the assembly. Why don't you approach the district magistrate or the district collector for relief, etc., etc., etc. All this has been done. All this has been done. You think Adivasis have not done it for the last 63 years? I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. And I see Anil. My point is very simply that at moments like this, it's required of us to look more carefully into what the government claims and government claims are, what government's policies are, what government's propaganda says, and go behind it, demystify it, go behind it to understand why this is happening. It will not do to judge Maoists on the basis of the crimes that they have committed. And I say it with very clear. If those amongst us believe that the Indian state is still capable of delivering, despite the innumerable crimes that they have committed, and if you were to list those crimes, it would be staggering. I mean, the Maoists would be nowhere close to the crimes that the state has committed against our people in the last 63 years. Yet if we are believed to give them a benefit of doubt, or we still believe that there are still good people, that Sonia madam will save us, or somebody, some other well-meaning person sitting there in authority will bail us out and help this country and help us or end this, then please use that much of your sympathy and your sentiments for the Maoists to also to accept that they are not just fighting for themselves. At this juncture, the war that they are fighting is for an entire resistance. If we do not accept it, and if we do not accept it as an integral part of that resistance, or broad resistance, will not be in a position to come out and take a position which should be and has been an old demand, and the oldest demand, or for which we should be coming out on the streets and protesting, which is no to war against our people. Please outlaw that the government should have no authority to declare war against our people. This government says that war is not an option with Pakistan. I believe in it heartily, wholeheartedly. I am with the government on this. I also don't believe in war with Pakistan. But I want this same government to be forced to declare also that war is not an option against our own people. It's only when that happens that we can start looking at things differently. It is at that point the question of violence and political violence will become meaningful and sensible. At this juncture, to ask the Maoists to stop is like asking them to surrender, and certainly I would not like them to do. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Before I call upon Arundhati Roy, may I request you to just move a little ahead, howsoever you can just move ahead to make space for people standing outside. Please. There are lots of people actually standing outside, they could come in. Please make way for them to come in. I invite Arundhati Roy to deliver a speech. Good God.
Gautam, I must say that Gautam is one of the few intellectuals in this country who has the integrity and the right to speak with the kind of passion that he spoke today, because he's been saying what he's been saying year after year after year. Actually, it's in a way I was being lazy. I said, Gautam, you speak first, because then you'll say everything and I won't have to say much. And that is the case. I'm just going to try and come at this from a different angle. It's so hot here, it looks as though I'm uncomfortable with my politics. I'm not, it's just hot. First of all, I think we should reverse the way we are approaching this and thinking about it, and the way it's being presented to us. You know, the way it's being presented to us is that there is this unrest in the country, which it is the duty of the government to suppress in order to safeguard its good and decent citizens. The fact is that nobody needs this war more than the government. Nobody needs this war more than the government. And it is trying to create a situation, it's trying to fashion an enemy that it can easily demonize in order to justify this war. It's an old trick, you know. I mean, unfortunately, it might be bad for our egos or our sense of ourselves or our sense of history or our sense of uniqueness to think that anything that is happening here in terms of the way the building blocks are being placed is new. These are very, very old games that many other countries and many other people have had decades of experience in. But even if you look at when this government came to power first, the Congress, the UPA came to power first in 2004, and Manmohan Singh said that the Maoists are the greatest internal security threat in the country. What was the situation of the Maoists then? They had just been virtually eliminated, virtually annihilated in Andhra Pradesh. Something like 1,600 of their cadre had been wiped out. So what was it about them that was the greatest internal security threat? Why was it that when he said that, the share prices of the mining companies began to shoot up? Because it was a signal to them that I'm going to do something about this. But, of course, it's not always in their control. You know, as Gautam said, once you start an attack, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They became, I mean, I don't still consider them an internal security threat, but in the terms of how the government thinks about it, certainly by shining the light on them so much, by making them so important, they actually made the Maoists bigger than they ever were. And they need that. I remember, it might have been in 2002 or something. I don't know how many of you remember this, but there was a Adivasi Gotra Mahasabha, which is an Adivasi organization in Kerala, which for years had been agitating for land rights and had been promised land. And of course, the promise was only, as all promises are in this country, just to kind of disrupt the build-up of a political movement. And they were not given the land. So about 4,000 Adivasis went and took over the national park in Muthenya, in a place called Muthenya, North Kerala. There was a police firing and they were shot at. And nobody came out in the favor of the Adivasis. The environmentalists said, oh, why should they have taken over a national